My Hero Academia's manga. I'll be honest with y'all, I had one hell of an adventure catching up because it's so crazy how mixed I am on what I was feeling toward, I guess, the manga in general for a bit while I was catching up to how I feel now with the last 7 chapters, probably a bit more than the last 7 chapters, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I've enjoyed some stuff. And again, with this discussion, I'm mainly going to be talking about the latest 7 chapters from, I believe it's 218 to 225 of My Hero Academia.
Whether Facebook, Twitter, or the two, make sure to steer clear, cause I'm coming through like...
Yo, the war against the villains, I think it's an incredible display on how well My Hero Academia works when you go to the villain side. I think a lot of people could agree with me that My Hero Academia, when it's on the hero side, unless it's with the big 3 characters of the hero side, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Deku, My Hero Academia starts to feel a little stale when you start relying on like the other characters for complete chapters. Like 3 or 4 chapters back to back focusing on Jiro. Not that they've done that in particular, but something like that would be a catastrophe because it would get stale, because those aren't the characters that we're very highly invested in. Sure, we love Class A, and yeah, you can appreciate each and every one of them because they're nice, their quirks are all crazy. It works so much better as a narrative when we're on the villain side, because again, it feels as though some of the other heroes in Class A or just in the class in general don't really hold up the story to a very interesting point. And again, this is where I'm starting to dive into the arc that I didn't really care for, the Class A versus Class B, and I'm going to go in depth with that and why I feel that potentially could be the worst arc in the entire series because of what it's done. And there's a simple thing that really I had a problem with, and again, I'll address it in a different video. But with this arc, once it goes to the villains, it seems as though almost all of them, and maybe it's because, who knows, maybe personally or in terms of the narrative and the way the story is being pushed, it seems as though most of the villains can keep my attention. When Toga's on the screen, like the latest chapter 225, I am on board. I am like, Toga for the win. This is interesting. Likewise with Dabi, likewise with Shigaraki, likewise with even the Zod-looking creature, because these last 7 chapters, I ain't gonna lie, it's been incredible. It's been incredible. My Hero Academia, for me, I ain't gonna lie, it went from up until that point, the last arc before then, I was like, yo, I might actually consider dropping this. That's how I was feeling with certain parts of the prior arc. I get into this arc and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't make a video like that yet. Thank goodness I had a chance to actually get a bit more context and stuff like that, because that would have been a rushed and terrible decision, because My Hero Academia has picked up dramatically with this arc, and I love the way Horikoshi writes a narrative for the villains in terms of like, I really feel like this is an interesting twist, because it's seeing the exact same circumstances that a shonen protagonist would go through, being weak. You know, when Shigaraki started, he was trash, okay? He was garbage. He couldn't, you know what I'm saying? He couldn't do much. I mean, yeah, with his bamboozled attack, he might have gotten in on All Might, but he had no purpose. He had no structure. He to this day, he still doesn't really roll like a boss. We see the League of Villains. They are living, they're on broke boy status. How are y'all some highly known criminals? You know what I'm saying? At least in your country, your region, your monsters, but y'all living in like an abandoned building. So it shows again that Shigaraki just has so much growth to do, but it also shows a bit of the growth that he has. In the beginning, Shigaraki didn't really care about having a purpose. Now Shigaraki does. Now Shigaraki actually is trying to find an understanding of himself. He's trying to find purpose, similar to what you would get in the development of a shonen protagonist. And that's where My Hero Academia has really switched and turned into its own lane. Because remember, in the beginning of My Hero, likewise with the beginning of Black Clover, it felt as though they were kind of very similar to its predecessors like Naruto and stuff like that. My Hero Academia has now shown, no, the villain side just is way more interesting. You know what I mean? We got the villains like, okay, let's go to something that I really want to talk about, because I know I kind of just strayed away from my original discussion, but something that I wanted to really go into. It is, to me, clear as day that the inspiration behind, well, for me, I saw it, a couple other people seeing different inspirations of it. For me, this creature that Shigaraki is trying to get to bow down to him, that was passed on. He was originally the bodyguard for All for One. This creature reminds me of like Zod from Berserk. That's what I got from it. A couple other people, I saw a couple other ones. I can't remember what they said, but I was like, man, that was a good one as well. But for me, I got Berserk, Zod, all the way. That was what I got. I was like, holy cow. And when you're getting inspiration from Berserk, you're onto something. And the fact that Shigaraki has to prove himself and he's been actually going through it, this is the progress that you get of a shonen main character being applied to the villain side, seeing the villains. Honestly, when My Hero Academia started, one of the problems that I had with it, and in retrospect, I'm glad that it was the way it was that the villains felt like trash. I honestly always felt like Shigaraki is just so weak. How do we have, what threats do we have? That's why when All For One came along, we were all shocked. Like, finally, somebody that All Might even has a problem with. Because Shigaraki and them were jokes. They were jokes. You know what I mean? Seeing the same methods applying that you would get for like a Deku or for like a Bakugo. Which Bakugo, man, his development. And I'm gonna cover Bakugo's development more in the other video because I was mainly in the Class A, B training arc shit. But, man, Bakugo's grown a lot. Todoroki grew earlier than most of them, and he's still growing, but man. And by the way, what's been going on with the Endeavor family? That was one hell of a saga. I ain't gonna lie. I was really hyped into all of that. This Zod-like creature. I ain't gonna lie. The art, you could tell Horikoshi loved that. The art on every scene with that monster, they're going to probably have to do a CGI in the anime. I bet it's not going to look good in the anime. I'm just calling it right now because in order to animate that, it's going to be a monstrosity. That's going to be a CGI monster. I'm calling it now. My Hero Academia fans, get ready to be disappointed. The anime is not going to be able to pull off. What is his name? Hold on. I want to get it right. Giganto Machia. Anime and pulling Giganto Machia right. I'm calling that right now because Giganto Machia, monster. Absolute monster, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Absolute monster. I say it again because, when Shigaraki finally gets to the point of like, okay, he masters this guy, it's again going to be like a shonen power-up, like you would get for the heroes. Now Shigaraki, once he trains enough to get to that point, we're also getting a training arc. We're getting a training arc for a villain on top of that scene where his power-up is going to be essentially having this bodyguard. Once he's able to get to that point that he respects him, once he uses him to use his battle against his big Joker villain organization, which we're going to talk about that in a second as well, then he's a problem. Now the hero organization are going to struggle because that monster was the same monster that All For One had. And All For One was a monster in and of himself. So if he left him behind, it's because, again, he believes in Shigaraki, which Shigaraki, I mean, it's clear as day that All For One did all of that. It's clear as day that Shigaraki doesn't really remember stuff because of the influence that All For One had. That's clear as day that Shigaraki is like blind to it. More than likely, it was All For One that killed him because he's seen that he had that quirk already. I doubt that it was. If Shigaraki did kill all of them on accident, that'd be dark and I'd love it. I don't see it being that way. I see that it's going to give Shigaraki a way out. And it's starting to look more and more like, which a lot of manga are really, really inspired by this, that same mold that Naruto didn't start it. So please don't say, oh, he's saying Naruto started this. No, Naruto didn't start it, but I just seen it in Naruto so much that I'm like, okay, this is where I remember it from. That same thing of the Obito, Madara, Kaguya situation. Black Clover's gone through it just now. It seems as though My Hero Academia is going through it with Shigaraki being the Obito, but maybe he could be done the best way possible. Obito, All For One being Madara, and a higher force than that is going to be what started all this maybe. I hope it's just All For One. Let's cut off the Kaguya situation and let it be Shigaraki, All For One, because it's clear as day that eventually that's going to be the path. I hope not. I hope Horikoshi decides, you know what? Let's take it a different route. Let's not do that. But I just see there's so much Naruto influence in today's Shonen Jump manga that more than likely that's what it is. And Black Clover just did it, and Black Clover did it better than Naruto. And My Hero Academia's writing has shown that when Horikoshi really wants to flex his pen game, he can make a plot twist better than something as well. So My Hero Academia has the potential to do it even better than Black Clover did it. And that's great, because that's showing that they're taking old ideas and using them and making a new twist to them. So hopefully if that's the case, and there's an Madara, Obito, and even a Kaguya situation, if Horikoshi can do it right, I won't be mad at it. And again, I'm not saying that Naruto started it. I want to repeat that, because don't say that I'm saying Naruto started that shit. No. Let's talk a little bit about Toga. I'm not going to lie, because 225 was the latest chapter. Let's talk a little bit about Toga, and wow. I love Toga. I ain't going to lie. Toga, like a lot of people are on the Momo hype train, But Toga, baby, Toga. Oh, yo, it's crazy. Nah, on some real, I love her character, and just the lesson behind it is what I really just enjoyed. The lesson behind it of what exactly is normalcy. Because Toga feels like what she's living right now is normalcy. So it also makes you question, I guess, in terms of the narrative of what made Toga feel like being a psychotic person is normal. Were her parents abusing of her? Was she exposed to bad things? Like, what is it that made her feel like that is normalcy, unless she's just absolutely crazy and something happened? But then again, reports say up until 17, she was a sweet girl. So a lot of interesting stuff when you go into Toga. Like, okay, what made her snap? Or was it that all along she was putting up a front and she felt like this? What is normalcy? Normalcy, honestly, it goes back to just the amount of number. If there's 10 people alive on planet Earth and 9 of those people say that running around with brass on their head screaming for 10 hours a day is normal, that is what's normal. So that is a very interesting and powerful message there with Toga's character that Horikoshi is displaying, that normalcy is just really depending on what someone's viewpoint is or perspective. Very, very, very powerful stuff. I love when authors can sneak that in. It's snuck in behind all the cool anime funny, oh, I love that character, she's so awesome stuff, a powerful message. And that's always what I'm nowadays seeking when I'm reading a manga. If a manga like chapter doesn't have a message for me, I get sometimes let down. Yeah, you can have all the cool fights in the world, but if there's no substance behind it, the author isn't saying anything, then I'm kind of like, okay. Very appreciative of the message behind Toga's character and what we got displayed in chapter 225 of My Hero. But this entire arc already has been extraordinary in showing a lot of these characters. Let's take one thing that I noticed personally, and a commonality between the villains. Shigaraki, no family. Toga, great family, apparently, according to things, or a normal family, right? Dabi, assuming that he's related to Endeavor, and that's that son, hero family. Seems as though these are all collectives of different backgrounds, and that's also probably why they flow so well as a chemistry, opposed to like My Hero Academia, where aside from the 3 or 4 characters like that we really rock with, and you know, people will say 5. I'll say honestly, for me, it's about 4. There's about 4 characters that no matter what, when they're on screen, they usually got my attention. Of course, the big 3, and probably, I would even argue Mineta, because he's just so damn funny. Let's talk now about the Joker-looking dude, Destro, that his father was Destro, seemingly, and he's carrying that name. The dude, to me, seems like the ultimate training device for Shigaraki. I don't see this guy being a high player in this game at all. Honestly, even from the way the guy that's captured, which Jiren, is his name Jiren? Or Giren, whatever. The way he spoke of, like, if the Nomu come, you're done. I think this guy has a good bluff. Maybe he has all these warriors, but they're not even all that strong if you put on somebody like Giganto Machia. Giganto Machia is going to be what helps basically give the final push of training for Shigaraki to have him listen. Basically, in my eyes, Giganto Machia is a mixture of like what you would get from Berserk with Zod, that incredible design and kind of that having a master type of thing, but also like a Charizard that like, bro, I ain't listening to you. You know how Charizard did Ash Ketchum in Pokemon the Indigo League, where that's why he lost, something like that. But maybe it's switching it around, and that's what's going to, the end of this whole fight with Destro is what's going to lead Giganto Machia to following Shigaraki's orders, and this is ultimately a training arc for Shigaraki right now. And that's one of the things that is crazy. My Hero Academia, again, for me, more interesting times 1,000 for the villains than the heroes. I think because we've gotten plenty of exposition on the heroes, and again, when we go into training arcs, that's all we get. So the fact that we're getting a training arc for the villains, it breaks the mold, and all of these guys, again, are really interesting and exciting. And that's what I love about My Hero Academia, that it really, I'm starting to notice, it really characterizes incredible villains. The heroes, I love a lot of them, but there's too many. And that's just a whole other separate opinion of mine. I feel as though there's just too many characters that are written in for me to care about all of them. I care about a few of them. The villains, though, the few bunch that we have, because I've seen them when they were absolutely broke down, and to where Shigaraki and them are today, I rock with them heavy. It's kind of like, it reminds me, it gives me the same feel, and I don't know how many people will relate. Sonic Adventure 2, if I'm not mistaken. Sonic Adventure 2, you got to play as the heroes or the villains. And My Hero Academia kind of feels that way right now. It's Sonic Adventure 2. We have, of course, that psychotic woman that is dying to get that interview from Toga, which again, it showcases that we're getting, you know how classic shonen used to just have 5 villains, and then the heroes, there'll be 4 villains, and there'll be 4 heroes, and then they would go through each obstacle where they'll lose a hero, lose a hero, lose a hero, until there's one-on-one. And it seems as though they're taking that approach with the 1v1s as a training to the villains again. Like, that's great. I don't know. I just really, really rock with that whole idea right now of how My Hero Academia is constructed. It just is a shame that we know eventually we're going to have to stop with the villains and go back to the heroes, which I'm not complaining. I'm not saying like the heroes are bland, but I guess it's maybe a sour taste in my mouth between everything of like the end of the Class A, Class B stuff with Deku. A lot of people hated it. I was kind of in the middle, more towards I like it, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of cool, but it was just, yeah, again, different video, different time. One of the things is you could definitely see that I think all of the villains needed this right now because they needed a kick in the ass, so to speak, in order to get them going. I think all of them, they needed this training arc. Shigaraki and all of them, they needed it to give them more purpose because you could see in the beginning of it that they were jaded to everything. Like, yo, we broke. How are we broke doing this? What is going on? I don't even want to do this anymore. They're all questioning their purpose. So this is giving them purpose. Again, wrapping it all the way up with the last time I'm going to say it, great villain training arc. I love the way it's being done. And with all that being said, My Hero Academia from chapters, I want to say 218 to 225 has been absolutely freaking incredible. This war that's brewing, which I don't know if it's much of a war because I think once Giganto Machia shows up, it's a wrap. I think once he shows up, maybe Shigaraki and them are going to struggle. We're going to forget about Giganto Machia. In another month or two, we'll forget that, hey, he's in the wings. And then, bam, he'll come through or some shit like that. That's kind of what I'm guessing is going to happen. Or Shigaraki will jump on his head and ride through and kill just all of these 100,000 warriors because Giganto Machia is a reason All For One left them behind. That's all I have for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit the bell to get all notifications. YouTube been wilding lately. Y'all already know what it is. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links, of course, in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Anime and manga for life, boy. Bow. Have an awesome day. Can't forget the music, though.
Everything good always comes to an end. If you stab me in my back, we can never make amends. Trying to move to acceptance, hard to accept it. Mistakes like mirrors, gotta reflect it. I don't wanna fucking leave, but I gotta leave. Leave the maybes to the crazies. Maybe one day there I go admitting something in a subtle way. No more copies, leave without a trace.